because I think that dead. So, okay, it's just that. All right, we'll call to order the Stevensville Town Council meeting for Thursday, September 10th, 2020. Ms. Bertha, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Devlin.
Here.
Councilmember Holcomb.
Councilmember Holcomb has an excused absence.
Thank you. Councilmember Michelson.
Here.
And Councilmember Vick.
Here.
Mayor Dewey.
Sure. All right, if you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we are at public comments. Public comment with citizens on items that are not on the agenda. You'd step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record. State your name and address for the record. And then public comment. Please wear a mask as you walk through the room. Depends on if there's any public comment. Going once, going twice, no? Okay. We'll wait for Janelle to return because she has an update on minutes for you folks. Thank you. We're at approval of minutes. Ms. Bertha, do you mind providing council with an update to where we are in the minutes process from the backlog we have?
I sure can. I am currently in mid-June and locating meeting notes that have been started and then going through the audio. So through June, there's not much in July, just due to the fact of what types of meetings are going on. And then I'll be on to August. So I'm gonna cross my fingers and hope that everything is ready for our next council meeting. I'll keep you guys posted if that changes. Thank you.
Thanks, Janelle. I apologize. I know I promised council we'd have those to you tonight, and that was naive of me, knowing that Janelle's new in the position and so getting used to the minutes format and locating audios and all of those things. So in the meantime, know that we're posting video links for our meetings on our website. There's a new column on our meetings page where video links are posted for past meetings so people can rewatch those if they want to. We have approval of biweekly claims. Robert, you have a claim sheet for us.
Yes, we have claims. We have three sets of claims actually. The first two, one is for the utility billing we do every month, have to be paid at the end of the month. That's claim 16191, $308. They don't take a credit card or any other form, so we have to write them a check. So that's that claim. That claim has already been paid. It's just the nature of the way it works. The second claim on the other sheet was a contractor claim for Knife River. We had to hold back 1% of the money we pay to the state, and that due. So we had that pay that to the state before we got and then the river claims 16192 through 16226 for $19,850.87 or 42.
We have a motion to approve biweekly claims. Mr. Michelson.
I make a motion to approve the biweekly claims.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Michelson, seconded by Mr. Dick to approve bi-weekly claims. Questions for Robert? Mr. Michelson?
Yes, Robert, on claim 16192, page 107, Optical Scientific Incorporated for $1,673.72.
That's where the maintenance guy come out and calibrate and working on the AWAC at the airport. Comes out 3 times a year. I'm in the wrong business.
You see the travel expenses of $750.
Yeah, the way he does it, comes out and does like 8 to 10 in the area. So we split that travel expense between all the airports in the area when it comes down to it. Still.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dick?
I was just wanting to see, I know it's something we've kind of been throwing around for about a year now, but did we ever get that situation with Verizon fixed on why some phones were costing so much more than others?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Data. A lot of phones don't have data, so they're cheap. But the building department, mayors, those 2 ones have data. Like the airport manager, no data. It's just, and they get a cut rate for the department.
It kind of depends on when that specific line came onto our account, or the contract it was brought onto. Some of that is going to tie into our conversation later about phones. Any further questions from council on claims? Or notes from Robert? Public comment on the claims? Okay, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Let's go ahead.
Councilmember Devlin? Aye. Councilmember Michelson?
Aye.
And Councilmember Vic?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to administrative reports. Robert, do you want to give an update report?
Yes, we had a meeting at the airport on Tuesday, lasted about 3 hours, because we hadn't had an airport meeting in a while. We went through quite a few things. One of the things we talked about is putting an RFP out for the building that Montana, they're not actually going to put the bill for. So that RFP is going to be going out. We had an update on the construction project. The FAA got back with us. They approved extra like 66K, up to 66K to dig up some of the subsurface under the aprons, which was not satisfactory. Lay down a fabric and finish up the project. The hopes is to get at least the south apron done before winter. We want to get them both done, but it all depends on the snow. And if not, that project will be held over until spring. We did talk about some of the lease fees and stuff like that. Fine. The big one that came up with the land use agreement with the Forest Service, which we activated again. We had upwards different times, 1 to 3 helicopters up there for almost a little over 2.5 weeks, which brought in some money. They rented the SRE building here in the helicopters. They closed out 2 days ago, and we'll get a report on how much we did it from that. Along with that, we also talked about putting in temporary pads for the helipads using some of the millings left over from the runway. Talking with Knife River, they were willing to just pile them up, take them down there and spread them out. And then it looks like the Forest Service is willing to come in and spray what these little solvent, puts it all together, and then possibly put in a cement pad, 12 by 12 cement pads on top of those things. So they're temporary. By doing that, it allows the helicopters to land on a pad instead of the ground, if they like to do. But it also kind of encourages them to come here too, because helicopters do like pads, and so it's kind of a leaning forward in the foxhole, if you will, in hopes of getting them here more each year. They operate. We're gonna have forest fires forever, so we're thinking about paying. The other thing we talked about is bringing Jet A fuel in. We don't have Jet A right now, and it's something we're going to do right when the apron's finished. Just by doing that, when the Forest Service pumps their own gas inside the land use agreement, we get 6 cents a gallon too. So we're missing out on that. They burn about 80 gallons, really quickly, an hour. So we get some revenue that way. Plus, when Hamilton closes down, their Jet A won't be there, and so most likely the people come up here to do next year. We talked about doing a hangar inspection, because once in our lease, once a year we do a hangar inspection. I don't think we've done a hangar inspection in any given time. But according to FAA rules, you have to have an aircraft in the hangar. Got to be aviation type activity in the hangar, or we break the aviation rules, FAA rules. So we're going to be doing an inspection here, what's inside the hangars. We talked about a parking issue. Parking up there is pretty, it's not marked. So we're going to go up there and we're going to mark the parking where people can park. So then in turn the public safety office and take it up if need be, what we be told that we go that route. We talked about training of the snowplow personnel. Right now, the town has got the CDL for town people to drive snowplow. Up there, it's been a train as you will program. So we're in the process of getting them up to speed, make sure they're trained, make sure they follow rules. So in case something happens, our liability will be, covered a lot better than we are right now. And that's it for the airport.
Questions from council for Mr. Underwood? Mr. Mickelson.
Airport manager, you got any advice yet?
I've got one person who's out of town half the time. And so we haven't had anybody really apply. No one's put an application. Someone's inquired about it, sent me an email and say, hey, I'm thinking about this job. I said, we'll fill out an application. Nobody.
Continue, Steve.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Underwood? Okay, thanks, Robert. The building department report is in your packet. Just as an update in the building department, Mr. Netsley, our top building inspector, turned in his resignation and is effectively done with the town of Stevensville, moving on to other ventures in the building inspection realm of things. However, that left us without anyone certified. So at the next council meeting, you'll see the administration come forward with a contract, so that we can contract with Mr. Netsley to provide those services temporarily to the town, so that we don't have to suspend our inspection process. So much like airport managers, building inspectors are also few and far between. So it'll take us a minute to get some folks trained up in order to fill those positions, especially with Tim having so many certifications in so many disciplines. That's very rare to find, and so that'll be addressed at your next meeting. But in the meantime, he's continuing to do the inspections that need to be done. So we won't see a lapse in service there. Finance report. Robert gave you a break. It's your turn again.
Great. Okay, a couple of big things. Our AFR was accepted by the state 2 weeks ago, which is good. Our audit for FY 18-19 is in review. It's strong. One issue that came up was the building code enforcement agreed upon procedures. When they were out here, I asked them about doing agreed upon procedures for the building code, which is a requirement every year. And for about 3 weeks, we went back and forth between them, Department of Labor, and trying to figure it out. And we finally, the right person, because they're all working from home, finally got online and said, no, we have to have it done. It should have been done every year. And so we're in the process of doing agreed upon procedures. A strong one, a little bit more money to come back out to do it. So we're looking locally, get a local auditor come in. It's a requirement to do it every year. They're anywhere between $1,500 and $3,500. And we just hope that the Department of Labor does not make us go back and do it for the last 3 years. And so that we're trying to get it done quickly so that they'll take the finding off the report. And I'm the one who told them how to do it. They're going to tell us the finding didn't do that. But they weren't going to do it while we're here until the Department of Labor said they would press off. So long story, we're going to get that done. We're not going to have a finding, hopefully, right, without having to do it back. Agreed-upon procedures. And so, and what that is, and really make sure that everybody's getting charged based on the ordinance, the fees in the ordinance. make sure we send the right amount of money to the state, and then make sure we don't have too much money in our fund. If we have too much money in our fund, the state can then come back and take our money. So we've got to spend building code enforcement money or lose it. Well, we get findings the last 2 years. No, we've got a finding on it. So they haven't come in yet, but now we're going to send the report to them, and they'll be on their screen. That's all I got to report on.
Any questions? Just a note on the agreed upon procedures, just to recap that. It was never done for this organization. In fact, we found it's not been done for a lot of other municipalities, and our auditor learned something from us in their trip out here in terms of what they were supposed to be looking for. So this wasn't something that the administration necessarily overlooked, but the auditors didn't know it existed until we brought it to their attention, and we decided, well, yeah, you are supposed to do that. And it resulted in finding inadvertently. So that'll be addressed when the full audit report comes out. Fire Department, Chief Bonley.
I'm pretty sure the stats are in your packet for August. No, August, you had 49 requests for service, 24 town, 22 rural, 3 mutual aids, 33 medical responses, 11 fires, and 5 motor vehicles for 49 for the month. So we're sitting at 430 for the year to date. You can see the breakdown as to where those requests were. It seems those late we had a rash of structure fire requests, be it in town, be it in the district, be it in our neighboring communities. Victor came out in Florence, which is a little out of norm for us. However, we haven't had the wildland interface thing yet in the valley, and hopefully we'll get by without that this year. Going forward, we did have a fire association did have their annual Firefly nighttime golf tournament, which was a great fundraiser success for us, and we really appreciate Parks Department and Bobby's input on that. However, this golf game was a fight. I've been working that, Bob. I think I've heard. Open burning in the county does remain closed, so there is no open burning anywhere. Yes, you can have a recreational fire, i.e., if somebody has a fire pit in their backyard, it is legal for them to light that and have a recreational fire, roast hot dogs, make s'mores. But you can only burn materials that has been produced by the property.
Dennis, you keep our lights.
Oh, I wonder why everything got dark.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Thank you, sir.
I was like, what happened to my light? What?
So again, people cannot be burning construction debris without processing the garbage. That's never prohibited or available to be done. So just small little recreational type fires are allowed within the city limits. Open burn period in the town is coming up. It'll be next month when you can burn lawn debris. I'm sure we'll have that out on the website when that period is open, if it's open throughout the county in order to do those types of things. So that'll be coming out. The fire department and police department, we are doing our 9/11 memorial tomorrow. We'll have a silent procession starting about 9:45 coming from Midburn Park down to the Veterans Park. And then we will have a presentation. We will have the American Legion is going to present the colors. We will read the names of the fallen from 9/11. And then we will disband and then disperse. So it is come and participate. It's standing room, bring a lawn chair if so desired. We're really trying to keep people social distancing and doing all that. You can line the street as we go by, whatever your level of comfort and participation is there. We encourage that in the town to come out and support that effort. But again, we understand everybody's level of comfort and how that plays out. So, but we will be doing that. October, of course, is Fire Prevention Week. You will be, the citizens will be getting a mailer in the mail, flyer in the mail, our annual fundraising flyer. that we do every year, and it mails out, and it's just a donation thing for the associations to help fund some of the items that we're not able to fund and get accomplished through budgeting process. So other than that, it's pretty much business as normal. As you can see, medical responses is the majority of what we do. We continue to have good response there, and we haven't had any issues with the COVID or anything like that. We're well equipped and well stocked in regards to that as far as PPE goes for the COVID response. So we're looking really well in the fire department. Question?
Any questions from council? From Chief?
Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, Mr. Something. Is there anybody else?
All right, few updates. Lewiston Park, we have some new signage. There's more no bike signs around State Park. It is on the rules. But since I've been in this position, that rule has not been followed. So we made it a little more clear that bikes are not okay in State Park. We have park signs up there, or our signs at the park now. So that way our police can go in there and regulate what happens at night and keep it safe. We had 3 pavilion rentals throughout August. We are still sanitizing parks 3 times a day, as well as the bathrooms. Down at River Park Trail, the last couple of windstorms we had, blew some trees and debris down on the trails. We cleared that and are continuing to maintain that trail. Creamery Garden Park, I went in and tried to fix a bunch of the leakage in the irrigation system in there. I changed 11 drip line heads, replaced some 1/4-inch line where it was needed, and I put patches on the main line because that system does need some TLC next spring. So we did what we could for this fall to regulate the leakage that was happening there. I've been working with the American Legion and Garden Club over at Veterans Park to complete those renovations and have it looking pretty good for tomorrow for the ceremony that Chief spoke of. Programming through August, we had 3 nature walks for kids. We had 14 participants. We did that down at River Park Trail and 2 on the refuge. It was a lot of fun, good success. Another program we had was Tourists in Your Own Town with the History Walk on the 29th. We partnered with Fort Owen, St. Mary's Mission, and the Stevensville Historic Museum for that. We had 40 participants. It was a great day. We were able to social distance and break up into small groups. We had enough staff to facilitate that. I was partnered with the library. Last week, we saw the signs on the bike path. That was a story walk, so it's a children's book, and each page is printed onto its own sign. So it encourages people getting outside and going for a healthy walk, as well as reading a story with. It was really cool to see the first day that we put them out. I saw a couple grandparents up there with their grandkids, and there's a really good success, and I think that's something we'll do again going forward. Update on the pool. I mentioned at our last meeting that the small pool was leaked 28 inches overnight for the leak test. So that was on average leaking about 2 feet a night. So that is where the problem is. I'm still in contact with HDR, and they're working on a repair plan that has not been presented to us yet. So we're expecting that very soon so we can move forward with fixing up the pool. And then I just also wanted to highlight the upcoming event tomorrow for September 11th, at 10 a.m. down at Veterans Park. Any questions?
Questions?
Thank you. You're doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Abbott, go ahead.
Did we ever find out about the irrigation system and all those little gardens?
Yep. So we are working on the 3rd grade class wants to go back into the native plant garden over there on the bike path and get that program going. It's been about 5 or 6 years since that's been something that they've done. But the garden club is working with the school to do that. So they tasked me with seeing if that irrigation worked. We found out that it does work. Timers need batteries, so we placed those, we get the timers going, but we did do a trial run of just turning it on to get it to the trees all the way down the path, and we found 2 breaks in the lines underneath, and that's what those 2 little geysers people spoke of yesterday. Not that high up, but one of them I could put my hand in there and feel the hole under from the pressure of the water, so that's something we will address. That's new knowledge to us, but the irrigation system does work. We just need to do a few repairs and be able to irrigate the trees as well as that garden for the 3rd graders.
Okay, and that includes like the little one that's right here, right in front of this building, right?
Right.
The little irrigation.
Oh,
thing
you're
there.
talking about the corner ones.
Yes.
They have drains, but I spoke with our public works as well as Ed, and to their knowledge, they don't know where that connecting piece is to supply that water, but they all have their own drainage system, and a lot of those lines might be incorporated with that. I definitely would need someone a little more knowledgeable on irrigation systems to, validate that.
That's fine. All right, Police Department, Chief Marvel.
Thanks for putting it the wrong way. Yeah. So he's just gonna talk about that page.
We'll work with what we got. So we did hire a new police clerk. We're waiting for that day that she comes on. And it's gonna be a good thing. It's not easy to be dealing with trying to do clerk work and police work investigations, all that together, plus the move that we do, which I'll talk about in a second. So I'm really looking forward to that. We should be again training hopefully within the next week. If we start with that. We have moved completely. We are still trying to get bugs and kinks worked out. We do have internet, which is great. Trying to get the printer online, that's proving to be problematic. Confident, hopefully that'll happen tomorrow. I'd like to have a kind of opening viewing, hoping that we can get that done end of the month, this month, if not sooner. That's what I'd like for everybody to be able to come in and see what it looks like when it's completed. We have been having a lot of vehicle issues, and they seem to just kind of come all at once, and that's what happened here recently. The alternator went out in the truck, and simultaneously the 2012 Charger had electrical issues. The 09 had a check engine light. It was just kind of everything happens in theory, I suppose. So quickly got on top of that and dealt with the issue. You probably did see that there was some cost to getting the part in quickly. We couldn't afford it without any vehicles. It was just a strange coincidence that everything just kind of happened at once. So as far as the stats go, we had 103 calls for service, up fairly significantly from last year. And as you can see in the format there, we give the times and the areas and the natures of the offenses that were reported. Is there any questions about any of that?
Is this a new format?
The stats format? Yeah.
I really like it.
Good. Okay.
It has a lot more information on it that I think we need to see, oh, is that your friend?
Yeah, usually sits on my shoulder.
Oh, that I think we need to see so we understand exactly what you guys are doing. When we just see a total number and maybe broken down with, different categories, that's helpful, but not as. So I really like this. Thank you.
Would there be any way, James, to get the percentage of crime solved with this every month?
Sure. So understand, just to kind of explain it, those are calls for service. Incidents are created if there's an actual crime committed. So this is actual work, if you want to look at it that way. Time spent looking into things, investigating whether or not a crime took place, or it could be something benign. So when incidents are created, that's a different structure, but so it'd be a little bit misleading as far as the numbers go. Because if I gave you a clearance number, it's going to reflect the incident number, not the calls for service. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I mean, I can add incidents as well, if you'd like, in a similar format, and include the clearance in there following the calls for service. Let's try that.
Okay.
See what that looks like.
Thank you.
I was just gonna make a comment that for one similarity I noticed between those three vehicles breaking down at the same time, that they're all Dodges.
Yeah, maybe you're gonna say that.
It's not buying them.
We didn't let him order any more Dodges.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, George is off this evening. And his report is in your packet tonight. So if you have any questions on that, just please get that to us and we'll try to get those answered. But his report is similar to past reports in terms of activity. Okay, we don't have any guests, correspondence, or public hearings to address tonight, and so we can dive right into unfinished business. First item on your agenda for unfinished business is discussion decision, late fees and utility bills, non-payment service suspensions during the COVID-19 pandemic emergency. Stevensville and the rest of the state of Montana remain under a state of emergency due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Some time ago, we discussed, in fact, with your emergency ordinance, you suspended the collection of late fees and shutoffs for non-payment. And then I believe in June, we brought this back forward for council's consideration as to whether or not you wanted to extend that program. And you did so through September 1st. We're back tonight to determine whether or not you want us to resume collections or if you want to continue to or rather extend those suspensions of late fees and service shutoffs. We've broken down for you in your packet the total, rather the accounts that hold balances in total. So we ran the report for, let me make sure I'm okay. So in March, approximately when the pandemic started in the first place, the total balance that we carried on accounts was $30,846, and 20,000 of that was current. So you're looking roughly $10,000. And then we ran the same report for June, right when we discussed this last. And your total balances were $34,538. And current balances were just under 20,000. So comparable numbers. They have gone up a little bit. We did see some non-payments and some people put the bill off. And then we ran the report again. I apologize because it looks a little bit different. But because it shows that there's only 315 accounts, but that's because we ran for accounts with greater than zero balances. So if they had a zero balance at the time of this report, they didn't even show up on the system. So we ran this, of course, right after we billed. And so there's a brand new bill on this report. And so that's why your balance is up to $55,151. And you're looking at current balance of $37,559. So we are seeing past due balances trickle up a little bit. And of course, we don't want to see that get too high before we, it gets to a number we can't control. But Laura's done an excellent job in reducing those balances before the pandemic. So we were going into this relatively strong compared to where we've been in past years. So that's good news. We do have systems or direction from things ready to go should you decide to reinstate shutoffs and late fees, excuse me. And those are kind of outlined by the state of Montana in terms of we do have to give anyone who's adversely affected by the pandemic an opportunity to claim an exemption from shutoffs and fees, but it allows us to go forward and charge everyone who doesn't claim that exemption and get them back up to speed. I would imagine some of the balances you're seeing trickle up is because of the summer watering season. So, if you kind of put the water bill off a little bit, you may not be as conscious of your water usage and naturally use more in the summertime. So we would like to kind of go into the fall and into the winter, trying to bring those balances down so that we don't get into springtime next year. And we have people with high balances who are beginning to irrigate, and so the high balance gets worse and worse and worse.
What's the approval process if someone were to claim exemption? Like, is it automatic?
Yes, so essentially what they have to do is we have to provide them a way to notify us that they are claiming an exemption that they have been adversely affected by the pandemic. And if they meet certain criteria determined by the state. And many communities have already developed a form that we can just utilize. So they fill out a form, say, hey, I'm laid off or whatever the case is, and it's COVID related, and I can't pay my bill. And so those people submit that paperwork and they're suspended, while then the rest, they're exempt from shut off by doing so.
In that case, then I'll make a motion to reinstate late fees and cutoffs.
Great, is there a second?
A second.
It's been moved by Mr. Beck, seconded by Ms. Devlin to reinstate late fees and non-payment shut-offs. Council discussion. Mr. Michelson.
Does it put a hurting on the town if we extended it a little longer for this COVID? Seems like we're right in the middle of it. If we reinstate it now, does that set more back or does it set the town back? I understand you don't want to get it too high.
I guess it's entirely up to the council as to what, I guess what liability they're willing to inherit in terms of outstanding balances and how high you're willing to let that number get. The administration's preference, of course, is that we're allowed to at least start. And I guess we're making this decision early so that we can give people plenty of advance notice to say, hey, look, this is coming down the pipe. And if you want to set a date to say, that we're going to notify everyone on their October 1st bill so that November 1st, they all know that he's going to show up. We can certainly entertain that. We'll do whatever the council's direction is. We just want to have enough notice so that before the next set of bills come out, we know what to tell people so that they have time to plan with the charges and such. So our hope was that perhaps, and nothing's for sure, of course, but our hope was that maybe we could touch base with some of these people as soon as some stimulus money was rolled back out this fall, as there's talks at the national level of that being reinstated in another round. We can't count on it, but we did want to touch base with those folks when that stimulus money came out and say, we understand, we know that this is coming. Let's try to bring your balance down to a reasonable one.
How about and just talk between us, resuming late fees at 60 days late and shut offs at 120 days, because then allows folks that are running behind to.
Yeah, except for unemployment rolled out the additional $400 a week. That goes to the end of the year, right? That's a lot of money that people are getting in addition that are on unemployment. That is for this kind of reason. There's been other programs rolled out to keep people afloat financially. So not to set up a savings account for that money for a rainy day. It's to use to keep you going, right? We have kicked this can down the road for quite a while. We have not a lot, but we already have some accounts in 60, 90, and 20 days. So what would you propose to do with those three classes then?
Just a quick note, logistically, we can delay shutoffs, but the 100 to whatever level you want. If you want to say only people 60 days, and I believe our billing policies say that anyway, but only people 120 days plus get shut off, that we can facilitate that. What our system won't let us do is say you only get a late fee at a certain. It's already programmed to say at this date you charge a late fee, and so that's something logistically that I'm not sure I can tell you tonight. It's something easy to change. In theory, it probably is, but
How long are you thinking?
How long were we doing 60 days?
Well, I don't know. I think in the beginning you had just said, what if we prolonged it a little bit longer? What did you suggest?
I thought that would put us in, we started in March, right, Brandon? It's every 3 months we brought this back. Is that correct?
yeah, I think that's kind of how the timing has worked. So March 20th is when you initially suspended collections. So we haven't done any work necessarily to charge late fees or do shutoffs since their March usage bill. So their April bill there was no late fee. Their May bill, there was no late fee. June, I guess. So they've had 6 bills with no late fees now.
And we're looking at potentially 9.
For the November, December bill. So you wouldn't see a late fee show up until the January 1st bill. Is that what your thought?
Yes, that's what I thought.
In a normal year, about what's the percentage of the number of people that pay their bills on time?
I don't know that off the hip. And I don't know how consistent that is because we have a different utility clerk. We think it'd be consistent, but depending on what's going on, Laura has actually brought collections down considerably from where they've been historically. So that's good. And so I don't know the percentage of people who are paying their bills on time. We are investigating on a tangent here. We are looking at implementing some processes that will make it easier to pay your bill online, where you can actually go in and save your account information and have a water account on our website. And those will take some time to implement, but we're trying to do that so that we can minimize the interruption of non-payment, and so we can make it as easy as possible for folks to pay their bill, whether that be an automatic recurring charge or what have you. So the only other consideration I'd offer is that when late fees do get reinstated, that late fee, we've suspended it, right? But that late fee is applied to their balance. So whatever their balance is in January, for example, if you wait that long, if they have 9 months of non-payment, and then that late fee is going to be a lot larger in January than it will be if we build them in October for whatever that is. So that's just one thing to consider is that it is a percentage of your total past due, and so the bigger your past due, the higher late fee you're going to pay. We want to be reasonable.
Yeah, and I think if we look at like a banking system, Coach Robin was here. So they did a 6-month deferral, right, on like loans, business loans, mortgages, things like that. They tack that on to the end of the loan. I'm not really sure of anything that has been 9 months. I don't know. I think we're being really gracious with that. Especially if we're going into winter, when people's incomes typically, are a little bit harder or lower, or things are tighter in the winter. If then January we have an expectance of them to pay their bill with a huge late fee, I don't know that that's fair.
And I guess statistically, just from my observation and my conversations with Laura and observations in the office, to kind of give you a sense of demographics, because I know we do worry about our aging population here in Stevensville, especially when we discuss water rates, right? Those folks aren't having as much of a challenge as paying their bills. In fact, they're our most reliable customers right now. It's the working class that we're seeing having those challenges paying their bill, and there are a number of them who are working with us and keeping in touch. So that's positive, and that's good news. But if we're considering elderly demographics in this equation, know that from our experience, just because they're very religious about coming to the county by the 5th of the month, and that's kind of how we know where we are in the month, is when they start showing up. And if they don't show up, we call for help. But those folks are still coming in and paying their bills. They're not expressing any challenge in doing so because of the pandemic. So that's good news as well.
We have a roundabout number on how much of this is residential versus commercial.
Well, I guess I can break it down this way for you. I can't necessarily speak to what's residential and commercial, but we could potentially run that report. We'll look at that. But I can tell you a handful of the past dues in 120 are either long overdue foreclosures where we're waiting for banks to cut checks after they've taken properties. In fact, one of our 120s came in and paid in full today. So that will knock that down probably close to $600 or $700, which is good. So that's a bulk of those. And then your 30, 60, 90s. A lot of our 30-day people, those folks, and that's why we gave them the extra month. Remember when we revised our policies? A lot of our 30-day people, it just happens to, we give them a 15-day turnaround and the payday just doesn't line up for them. And so they usually pay their bill like the day before we run the next bill. That's kind of how it works for them. And so that's why you'll see some balance in there. And then our 60, 90s, you know, those, I think those are primarily going to be our residential users. Again, you know, just kind of skimming over the lists that early on, like in June, Laura and I printed a list of each account. We wanted to make sure, you know, we reached out to those people who were going to find themselves in some trouble. And we didn't see any businesses necessarily on there outright. So that's good. And I think part of that reason is because of the stimulus money or the small business loans and those types of things that were rolled out very early in the pandemic that were helping those businesses with those ongoing costs. So yeah, I would venture to say a bulk of those confidently are residential, if not all.
I feel like we need to be very careful in the wanting to help people and getting them in a really bad position. I think we have potential to, in our want, I mean, I would love to say, let's roll this out throughout the year. But if people are having an issue with budgeting their money right now, we're enabling them, and right, we're human beings. We typically kick cans down the road, and then when you're faced with it, if you can't pay for it now, and it's doubled, how are you going to pay for it then? And then if they're receiving that with a huge interest on top of it, they can't pay it, and now they're looking at suspension of water in the middle of winter. I think we're creating kind of a big issue that we can kind of cut the cord on and nurture, so to speak, throughout the end of the year. Does that make sense?
And to tie into that, remember that we still are required by governor's directives to offer exemptions to folks who are adversely affected. So no matter what, those people who claim that exemption, I think that the town can do an effective job at making it known that you can ask for that exemption because we do want to work with folks. So they have that opportunity, and then those folks who maybe have a higher balance and don't want to pay a really significant fee. Laura has always been successful at developing payment plans for those people so that as long as they pay their current and then a chunk of their past due, then they avoid shock as well. So, you know, we do have our regular business our regular doing business with these folks. We have those in place already. So, you know, my hope is that if we reinstate something, I don't see many shutoffs. In fact, I mean, at least in the last year, we've not shut anyone off for non-payment. Mind you, a lot of that's COVID, but even prior to COVID, we haven't shut anyone off for non-payment. Usually we can get somebody, usually when they get the pink slip on the door, we give them 3 days or something like that, 3 business days to pay. It's usually their business day, they come in cash. So it's just, for whatever reason, our bill is not the bill that gets paid. It's not a priority bill. And that's why we're trying to make it easier for folks to pay online. You know, even my own household, we pay a lot of our bills online. To receive an actual bill in the mail on a postcard seems archaic, and I can see why people just kind of ignore it because it's not a significant bill. It comes in the mail, right? It's just a postcard. So we're addressing it. Mr. Michelson?
The Help for You program, do you have an estimate what's left in that?
Really? Do you know what cash is left in that?
It's got a few more years left in it. We only have 11 people on it right now. So it's got a ways to go. So they only get off the old man portion of the base fee, so it may be a little bit of help, but I can get that answer though, exactly.
Thank you.
We continue to encourage folks, like I said, we're not seeing that population necessarily affected because they're on fixed income anyway, right? Maybe they weren't working in the first place. So we're not seeing as many enrollments in that program because of COVID-19, obviously, because they're kind of in each other. So we need some opportunity for public comment. So the motion on the floor is to reinstate late fees and non-payment shocks. With that, I can call for public comment and give folks opportunity to turn in if they want. Public comment, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record, sign sheet. Okay. Any further discussion from council? You want to talk specific dates or give us some more insight or information? Mr. Michelson.
So if we go tonight to reinstate these late fees, when do they go into effect?
They would begin showing up on our October bill. So we would have roughly 3-4 weeks to let folks know that this is what's going to happen. I think Laura has a system in place where we can let them know what their current balance is today. When that letter goes out and say, hey, you are past due, this is your balance, and here's what your late fee would be, who's bringing your account. We can give folks plenty of notice.
Did they receive notices saying that they were not going to be charged interest for a certain amount of time?
No, I think we put a note on the bottom of our first bill when collections were suspended in April saying the late fee and payment shutoffs have been suspended. I think that was the only really notification we got.
And nobody's inquired about why they're not receiving the late fee.
Would you?
Well, that's my point. That's my point, exactly.
You don't get a bill in the mail, you don't ask for it.
That's my point.
Yeah, no, I can't, yeah.
Right, okay.
I think too that if we do reinstate this tonight, that we find a way to let people know that rent that end up paying their water bills through a third party.
Oh, I see. Yes, and we don't have problems with property managers and landlords paying the water.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, because those people are still being, those people are still being charged by their rental company. And if they're being affected by this pandemic and they're eligible for an exemption, they need to be able to apply.
Oh, yes. The water bill is always in the landlord's name. So if we'll work with Scott on that, because what I suspect the result of that would be is that you can see that if the renter is having a difficult time paying the bill, that's between the renter and the landlord, because the renter is paying the landlord for the water. We would always prefer landlords. Just if you want to budget bill your account, we'll give you the budget bill amount, raise your rent by every month by that amount. It's included in your rent, because we hate taking money from tenants who come in and say, I don't know what my bill is, and my landlord pays it, that. It turns into a nightmare. If you rent, public service announcement, if you rent, please just build your water into your rent and pay your bill, because it's a nightmare for our office staff to do it any other way. So, but we will do a good campaign, making sure people can qualify for exemptions if they do so, and then letting them know if they don't qualify for an exemption, what they can expect in terms of a balance. Okay, last call for comment or council discussion.
I'm good with reinstating, but not reinstating until December 1st.
Mr. Vick's suggestion then is to read this for clear. You're saying to wait to put late fees on the bill until their December 1st bill.
Correct, but go ahead and approve the reinstatement. Yes.
So reinstate it on December 1st, the late fees would show up in.
So
January.
people have 2 months to realize that they're going to start having late fees coming in.
So the late fees would be on their December bill.
Yes.
So they have until November to pay their bill.
Could I get that in form of an amendment?
I'll amend my motion to begin collection of late fees starting December 1.
I'll second. It's been moved by Mr. Vick, seconded by Mr. Michelson to amend the motion to reinstate late fees on December 1 and non-payment charges. Okay. Council discussion on the amendment, public comment on the amendment. Chief Mark.
So help me understand your thought here, Mr. Vick. If we don't want to, we want to give them more time to be prepared to pay the late fee that may be coming and possibly the most stressful, low cash time of the year for most families that are on a very tight budget, being December with the holidays and winter, and those that do have an outside job, employment drops off in the winter months. Now we're going to give them a whammy in the middle of winter. Does that really make sense?
Any further public comment? All right, the amendment is to reinstate the fees on December 1st. So we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Bergman.
Councilmember Devlin,
No,
Councilmember Michelson,
Aye.
and Councilmember Vick.
This is to vote on the amendment. right?
Correct.
Aye.
Okay, it's 2-1. The amendment passes. Motion on the floor then is to reinstate fees, late fees and non-collection suspensions on December 1st. The December 1st bill will have those reflected. Council discussion. Comment from the public. Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
what's your thinking for December 1st?
I was thinking 2 months out, but also to Mr. Motley does bring up a good point that a lot of our workforce in Stevensville is laid off during that time of year.
Yeah, winter.
I mean, it's kind of like a catch-22. I like right now, these folks have a high bill right now that they're going to be charged a late fee on if we reinstate it effective October 1st. But if we wait until after the holidays and everything, they're still going to have that high bill.
You're gonna have a higher bill,
Right.
a higher interest. I would be interested in October 1st, November 1st at the very latest.
I rescind my amendment.
Mr. Nicholson, you can consent to his rescinding the amendment?
I do.
Okay, so the amendment's squashed. We're back to just reinstating the fees and shut off. So, Council, what you proceed.
I'd like to make a motion to reinstate late fees and shut-offs or suspension, sorry. Now, October 1st,
October. So you're seeking to amend the motion
correct.
for the start date of October.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been seconded. So Ms. Devlin has moved to amend the motion to set start date for late fees and shut-offs on October 1st, and Mr. Vick is second. Any further council discussion on the amendment? Public comment on the amendment? Mr. Knopf?
It seems to me that this is a good viable amendment. You don't know, there is a way for those that are affected adversely from the COVID pandemic to seek relief from this immediate late charge on their bill. So there is a route for that to happen for those that are truly affected by the pandemic. So with that in place, it doesn't seem to make sense to forego business as usual, if you will. So I think that this idea is a good idea to go forward.
You have public comment.
The only comment I have is that people right now have more money than they've ever had. If they're on unemployment, that type of thing. They're making more now than And there's no reason for that. I mean, there's a reason for it to be past due, but it's not from shortage of time. Okay. The other comment is, get messages, people can't hear. This isn't working. I've been on with, no one can hear or call in. Somebody else, a lady, said, people are talking too fast. They can't hear. They have it on their TV, still can't hear. Okay,
Thank you.
Okay.
Just remind council to use your microphones as best you can. Any further public comment on the amendment? Council comment? Okay, the amendment is to make it effective October 1st. Roll call vote. Ms. Bertha.
Councilmember Devlin,
Aye.
Councilmember Michelson,
Aye.
and Councilmember Vick.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. So the motion on the floor then is to reinstate late fees and non-payment shut-offs for utility bills effective October 1st. For the council discussion on that. Call for public comment. Okay, roll call vote. Ms. Bertha.
Councilmember Devlin,
Aye.
Councilmember Michelson,
Aye.
and Councilmember Vick.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. It concludes that item. Okay, next item of business is discussion decision on resolution 3 to 7E, amending the town council rules. This is a carryover from our previous meeting where Mr. Vick tabled the item until we could meet in person again. The amendment to the town council rules speaks to a time limit on public comments.
When I last meeting, when I mentioned about tabling this, I completely forgot that this whole thing was not going to be here. And since this is something that does affect the entire council's set of rules, I moved to table it until she returns from vacation.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Vick, seconded by Ms. Devlin to table item 10B until Ms. Holcomb returns to the meeting. Council discussion? Public comment? All right, we'll do roll call vote. Ms. Bertha.
Councilmember Devlin,
Aye.
Councilmember Michelson,
Aye.
and Councilmember Vick.
Aye.
All right, moving along then, we have new business item A, discussion decision, painting of yellow jackets on sidewalks at Stevensville Booster Club. Ms. Schmitz, thanks for joining us this evening. You have the floor.
I think the letter that I wrote is included in the packet, but for those that may not have that, I will go ahead and read it if that's okay with the council. It says, "Dear Council, Mayor and Council, Stevensville Booster Club has been working hard to connect our town with our students and raise morale for our Fighting Yellow Jackets. In May 2020, we purchased flags to be hung in town and now hope with your approval to work toward getting yellow jackets painted on the sidewalks of Main Street. Our students in town deserve the opportunity to show pride in our Yellow Jacket Nation. Booster feels this is just one small way we can do that. We thank you for supporting our efforts and look forward to a continued relationship and support of our Stevensville student body. We do not have a date. We had hoped to do it this summer. Things just haven't quite worked in that direction. We would like to include our student body, our athletes, in helping get those yellow jackets painted. Those of you who spend time in town or have been here for years will notice that they're there. They're very faded. We would like to scrub those off and redo them. They will be the same size. We will order a stencil that will be the same size that was there previously. There will be no cost to the businesses or to the town. The booster will purchase the stencil and the paint for the project, and will, if the student body is not able to help because of timing with the date, whatever date we pick, then we will provide that manpower through volunteers through Booster Club.
Questions from the council commission?
What colors are you gonna use?
We are gonna use black and Vegas gold. We would also like to get permission to extend that permission through the summer of next year, because we don't know at this point, we don't have a date. We didn't want to go through purchasing stencils, they're quite expensive. So we didn't want to purchase stencils until we had an approval from the town, because besides sidewalks, we're not really going to use this size stencil anywhere else.
Understood. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve item 11A and make it where they never have to ask for approval again, where they can maintain those stencil marks on the sidewalk.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Vick, seconded by Mr. Michelson to approve item 11A, the painting of yellow jackets on sidewalks by the Stevensville Booster Club, and allowing for extended maintenance.
I just didn't want to try to say perpetuity.
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 All right, any further council discussion on the item? Public comment?
Well, I guess I do have a question for you on this.
Okay.
Would that motion work for you, where you guys don't have to come back again and ask for permission?
That's fine. We just wanted to make sure that we were doing what needed to be done and asking, because it's town property.
Okay.
We wanted to make sure. I will also say that we at one point, I think when they were painted on there, it was just in front of people that were boosters. That will not be the case. We will evenly space it all through town, regardless if you're a booster or not. And as we're doing it, if businesses would like to contribute a donation, untold donation, they are welcome to contribute to Booster Club, but there will not be a requirement to be a booster in order to have the yellow jacket. They will just be placed periodically throughout town.
Thanks for that clarification. Any further council discussion, public comment? All right, roll call vote. Ms. Burkhardt.
Councilmember Devlin.
Aye.
Councilmember Michelson
Aye.
and Councilmember Vick.
Thank you, council.
That's fine. All right, we're on new business item B, discussion decision on the upgrade of phone systems for the town's facilities. We'll give you some background and then get into the numbers of it, I suppose. And the reason we're bringing this forward to council this evening, obviously there's a need to replace our aging phone infrastructure for the town. And now's a good opportunity to do so. This is something we saw back in the budget process that we anticipated we may have to make an expenditure on. And so we built that knowing that we would see some savings by upgrading our phone system. And so there are some savings built into our budget that we knew we would be able to utilize for an upgrade. And so that's where you'll see this is essentially neutral in terms of expenditures to the budget. This isn't going to necessarily require that we amend the budget in any way, because of the way that we allocated this into our phone billing and all those things. So in terms of background, the last time the town's phone system, at least for the town hall, was upgraded in roughly 2012, 2013. The following year, the manufacturer of that system stopped manufacturing that exact phone system altogether. And therefore, technicians to service it became challenging. We typically would give a technician to service that system when changes were needed for moving extensions or resetting things. We would have a technician come from Butte. Then that technician was no longer in Butte for that company, and so then the company would send somebody out on Falls. Mind you, they're charging us travel to do all this, and it was crazy. And then now we have a guy out of Missoula, fortunately, but he's not really trained on this phone system, but he's trained on some systems kind of like it with the same manufacturer. So we muddle through. And when he does come, it's very expensive. We just did a switch over when we added a line to St. Paul, and that was a very expensive. Over $1,000 for him to come for few hours and install some equipment and get us up and running on another phone. So needless to say, the current phone system in town hall isn't necessarily fulfilling the needs of the organization. On top of that, now with this is where I say we built some of this into the budget. On top of that, we've now expanded facilities where the police department is off-site. Public Works has always operated off-site, of course, and we're looking at moving parks off-site in the spring. So we are kind of growing outside of town hall because of space, which is fine, but then it's posed some connectivity issues for us as well. And so what we've done is we've worked with our IT provider, our IT management, to address this phone system issue that we're having in the organization. And so they've worked up a proposal for us to move to an IP phone system, which is based on internet. Redundant to the internet phone, then we would still retain a line at each facility, a hard line for our fax. It would work as a backup line should internet connectivity fail and we need to still do emergency operations with our phones. So we have built some redundancy in moving to internet phones. But one of the other advantages to internet phones is that we can talk between facilities. I could pick up a desk phone and visit with the chief in his office, just as if he was in the same building as we were set up before. The additional advantages is that when we have people who do need to telecommute from home, and they work from home for us, this phone system allows them to take their phone home, plug it into the internet, and they can work as if they were sitting at their desk in town hall. We're not dealing with cell phone transfers and all those things and calling from private numbers. So it alleviates a lot of those issues from a post-COVID-19 world where we're talking more people working from home and having to facilitate quarantine and all that. That's an advantage. The last advantage I'll highlight for you to upgrading the phone system where based on the proposal from First Call is that First Call can provide technical assistance to us for the phone system and write that into the current contract we have with them. So Chief Motley has an issue with his desk phone at the fire station, and for whatever reason it's not working. He doesn't have to call Robert to figure out why the heck it's not working. He can call First Call and they can work and walk him through what needs to be done. He'll have to call from a different phone, of course, because but that would be one other thing we highlight is that this gives us the ability to downsize the number of cell phones we currently carry on our Verizon bill. And so in the workup that Robert provided you this evening, he highlights some of the savings between our Spectrum monthly bill, Verizon's monthly bill. What we'd rather do, it would be much cheaper and more effective, efficient for us for those employees who do have a cell phone. So for example, Public Works, they all have cell phones. They all have cell phone line. What they're doing is they're forwarding their town cell phone line to their personal cell phones, but they're only carrying one phone. They don't want to carry two phones. But we give them a town cell phone line because we want to require that they answer it for call outs in the middle of the night with the well system. So this would allow us to get rid of the multiple Public Works cell phones that are sitting in drawers that we're paying a monthly charge for, and instead transfer that into giving them a much cheaper stipend for monthly use of their own phone so that they can load an app on their phone and use the phone as if they were sitting. So there's another advantage to that. Ultimately, you're looking at just under a $15,000 purchase. If you add it up, you're at $14,226. It transfers our monthly cost for phones into just under $400. So there's obviously a subscription with this issue. With modern technology, we're looking at a new cost of our phones costing us $400 a month versus the monthly costs you see there. So there was one more piece I was going to highlight. That was another piece of savings that we actually didn't put into this arithmetic, but we realized the system we would like to move to is called Microsoft Teams. And it's a phone system. It's also an app. And when you get Microsoft Teams, it's built into the other Microsoft products that we already own, or we already paid for on a subscription basis, right? We pay a monthly or yearly amount for all of our staff to be able to use Microsoft Word, Excel, Outlook, all those things. Teams is included in that. By going through this specific program, we consolidate all of that. And so we're not paying a higher monthly subscription to GoDaddy. So there's some savings. So right now all of that's purchased to GoDaddy. So we're enhancing that as well. The other piece I'll highlight for you is that the Governor's Task Force with CARES Act has encouraged organizations to make these kinds of switches. And so we're looking to submitting for reimbursement from CARES at the very least for the one-time service fees and the one-time product fees. So best case scenario, we could see a significant savings in upgrading our phone system at no cost to our current budget. And CARES would cover that. Worst case scenario, we have to use budget funds to do that anyway, which we plan. So that is an opportunity that we're excited for. And if we can get we're essentially looking for your blessing so that when you see the $15,000 check come across your table, you're not shocked as to what the heck is going on. So I'll open the floor.
How much would this save the taxpayer over what we currently have?
Well, the savings we've roughly calculated is $363. And that, that's just an ongoing monthly, in terms of capital and that sort of thing. I don't recall what we paid for the phone system we had.
Right, I understand there's going to be a payment to get set up.
Right, but on a monthly basis, we're looking at a savings organization-wide at the very least of $363. Doesn't include the subscriptions we're already paying to Microsoft Office for those which are going to blend in together and be a trade-off. So we will see what Mr. Underwood.
Yeah, to that the monthly cost after our savings will be about $400. Okay, that's kind of that. It looks like an ad, okay, but with the savings we're going to get from not going to GoDaddy, the Microsoft Office 360 is part of that 760 subscription. So we pay about 2 years ago. I think we paid most of the 360 for 3 years. And so we're going to get some savings back, more like a credit we will continue to use for a while. And I didn't do the figures to figure out how much we really spend on GoDaddy 360 a month. That would come off that $399.50. So it's going to be lower a month. But if we don't go with new system, we still would have to pay for a system for the police department and the repairs to the system because we're at max capacity right now. And $1,000+ bill every time it comes out. So it's almost a wash.
It's one of those things where it's cheaper to replace it than it is to fix it. We're at that stage, unfortunately. You come in and you look at the phone and you go, well, what's wrong with it? But it's just the technology inside of it is just that big. Mr. Michelson?
So this quote here, would there be a contract behind this like there was with the other police call, or is this?
This is covered under our IT services contract. So this is just one of those things where when we ask them to go above and beyond on a specific project, there are some costs associated with that. And those are the costs you see here tonight. So, but the ongoing support, I'll say, because not the subscription is going to be an additional cost, but the ongoing support of the system is something built into the contract, into our IT services contract. So essentially any IT issue you have within the organization, whether it be your telephone, your Microsoft Office suite, or your computer, or your printer, all of that's done through First Call's help desk rather than having multiple points of contact.
I guess I just have a problem with this one-time cost. I know we talk about the CARES Act, but the CARES Act doesn't come through, then this was budgeted for already.
And I'm pretty confident this one for sure will go through, after talking to them and seeing what else has gone through. This is one of the things that I basically highlighted. We have a few others we're looking at too.
So could you tell me which ones go away besides GoDaddy?
Well, GoDaddy would go away. If you look at Spectrum right now, we pay $481 a month for phone service and internet. So there'll be, by the time we get rid of the phone service, there'll be a $200+ savings there. Verizon, we pay $449.72. We can save about $233 because the police department would maintain their phones. And then there would be say seven of the employees would use their own phones. We'd give them a $10 stipend a month. We'd still save $162 a month there. So in those two programs, we would save $363 a month. So we take that out of the 762, which is the subscription for everything we're going to do, including 360. And then we'll take the GoDaddy, which I have put in here, which is a pretty substantial amount. We pay a bill almost every other month on this for email, we pay for every email, we pay every email account, we pay for any of the office products. So that's kind of, it's going to be almost a wash. But if we had to pay for the phones for the police department right now, that bill would go up.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Ms.
So if this is part of our contract that we already have a First Call, what happens if we don't use First Call anymore?
We still obviously have the system. We still have all of that. So that would be part of the onboarding discussion or offboarding discussion, of course. And I would imagine that would be a requirement of our new IT vendor that they're able to provide us with some level of support.
Do we know that there's other IT companies that are capable of doing that with the phone system that we're getting?
The system is provided by Microsoft itself. So I think worst case scenario, we could call Microsoft directly. It might take us a couple hours on hold, but we could call them directly for support as well.
And I have experience myself working with teams on both the chat-based thing and the phone system. And it is one of those things where if we do change IT vendors, there wouldn't be an issue with migrating that system over. All of the settings and everything would stay the same.
Any further questions from council? So I guess there's a couple of ways we can approach this. First and foremost, the intent behind this agenda item was to give you a heads up that this expenditure would come if you're on board. So if you'd like to formally give us your blessing through a motion, we can retain that. At the very least, we wanted it on record so that you all knew that this was the way we were proceeding. So I guess we would like to know, if there's consensus to proceed. We'd like to know that so we can go ahead and get the equipment ordered, or if there's other considerations we need to address.
I'll make the motion to upgrade the phone systems for all utilities, for all the facilities.
Second? Mr. Michelson.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Vick, seconded by Mr. Michelson to upgrade town's phone systems. Any further council discussion? Public comment? Okay, roll call vote. Ms. Bergman.
Councilmember Devlin,
Aye.
Councilmember Michelson,
Aye.
and Councilmember Vick.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time on that one. Next item of business is discussion decision on resolution 481 requesting the distribution of bridge and road safety accountability program funds for the town of Stevensville for fiscal year 2020-2021. This is a annual process you undertake. We have to, by resolution, request disbursement of funds from the state program. As a reminder, this is the, if you recall, the 2-cent gas tax increase a couple of years ago. This is that program. This is where that 2-cent gas tax increase, some portion of that funding went. And so we have been allocating or accumulating rather BARSA money in the BARSA fund, and we are trigger ready to spend a good share of that on the 3rd Street Improvements Project, which is slated for October. We just finalized some plans with George last week, so we should see some movement on it very quick in terms of construction contract. Getting the council. So we do need to request the funds for the program. Mr. Nicholson.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 481 requesting distribution of bridge and road safety and accountability funds for the town of Stevensville fiscal year 2021.
So second. It's been moved by Mr. Nicholson, seconded by Mr. Big to approve resolution 481. So discussion? Public comment? All right, roll call vote, it's roll call.
Councilmember Devlin. Aye. Councilmember Michelson
Aye.
and Councilmember Vic.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, next item of business is, item D, new business. Discussion decision on council rules. Councilmember Michelson, you have the floor.
Yes, our council rules has a section in it which says that whenever a town council has sufficient advance notice of a future vacancy in an elected office, town council shall attempt to fill a vacancy in advance of the actual vacancy in order to prevent an elected official from incurring a period of vacancy. A vacating council member will vote for their replacement if available. I didn't think that sounded right, so I sent an email to Mr. Dan Clark, who's the head of our city leagues, and he sent me back and said, Bob, either the council seat is vacant or it is not. If it is vacant, then the remaining members of the council vote to fill a vacancy. The outgoing is gone and no longer is a council person, nor should have a seat on the council to vote for their successor. So with that, I think part 14, section 1, 2 should be removed.
I did have an opportunity to address this with the town's attorney in terms of interpreting this. And I think that there are differences between what's listed in council rules and what the town codes, or excuse me, Montana code states. What council rules is referring to is basically a future vacancy where the elected official says, hey, I'm going to be done in 30 days, or I'm going to be done in 60 days, or whatever the case is. I'm giving you a heads up as courtesy that I will be done effective this day. The filling of vacancy then applies to Montana code. That then applies when that seat becomes vacant, meaning someone gives 30 days notice, then on that 30th day, when they vacated their seat, that's when 4112 applies. So what council rules enables you to do is to select the successor of a future vacancy before the vacancy exists, so there's no lapse in representation. That's the intent behind that. And we've had a conversation on multiple levels of the council, depending on what the vacancy is, on whether or not someone who is eventually leaving can participate in the appointment of their successor. And we've had attorney opinions state yes, just about every attorney that's worked for us. So they are not in conflict with each other. That was Scott's read of this, and I could throw this that they're not in conflict with each other. One is dealing with the future vacancy, and one is dealing with the vacancy now. Mr. Michelson.
I think what Mr. Clark was saying is a council member cannot sit and vote on his predecessor.
He wouldn't vote on his predecessor, but his successor.
He wouldn't be sitting there to help determine his successor.
Right, and as I just reviewed, we've had city attorneys give an opinion that that is allowed.
Why would Dan Clarkson know?
I think because the way the question was posed, Dan Clark understood that the vacancy had already existed. So if Ms. Devlin resigned effective immediately, then tomorrow she would not be able to help pick her successor or vote on who her successor is. But if she resigned tonight and said, I'm done in 10 days, and you were able to fulfill that vacancy before the 10 days expired, she would be allowed to participate. Ms. Devlin?
I guess my question is, he asked or he suggested to you to have the city attorney review the policy. Did you talk to Scott yourself? Did you talk to Scott about this question?
I did not, Jenny.
Okay.
But Dan did say, I suggest having your city attorney review the policy for legality.
Yeah.
And it was CC to Scott, so we assume it must have made that.
I'll make a motion to table until we get a written opinion from Scott.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Dick. Second by Ms. Devlin to table this council rules topic until written opinion is issued by the city attorney. Council discussion?
I don't see where he was CC'd in on this.
What's that?
I don't see where Scott was CC'd in on this.
Well, nonetheless, you're correct. I don't see any email chain where Scott was CC, but he is aware of the issue now. And I think he's prepared to respond. So we'll get that from him in writing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Public comment on tabling the matter. Okay, hearing none, Ms. Berthoud, roll call vote.
Councilmember Devlin,
Aye.
Councilmember Michelson,
Aye.
and Councilmember Vick.
Aye.
All right, that concludes the portion, excuse me, the motion obviously passes unanimously. That concludes the business portion of tonight's agenda. Under the executive report, I don't necessarily have anything to report on outside of what the department heads have reported to you tonight. Everybody is quick at work. I returned to the office on August 31st in more regular capacity. In fact, I've been there every day, but nonetheless, it feels good to get back into things as the family's kind of done transitioning with the baby. And we're clicking along very well. As the chief of police reported, we successfully got the police department moved over into the new facility. So we will schedule an open house for the council and members of the public to come and check out that facility so that they can take a look at it. And we were successful getting carpet, lighting upgraded, and so it's a much more open and friendlier facility for guests of the police department as well as our staff. The police officers are very happy with that facility so far. And fortunately, we've been successful in submitting some of those costs to CARES, which we were anticipating doing. On the CARES note, I did attend a webinar, which I believe I forwarded out to staff and council. And it was a town hall meeting, so to speak, hosted by the League of Cities and Towns and the local government center out of Bozeman. And they addressed a number of COVID-related issues, and one of those was CARES. Primarily, the participants in this webinar were other mayors and like city managers across the state. So it's kind of an administrative level meeting. And so they gave us an update as to what they're doing in terms of CARES funding and how to participate, or in terms of how to submit for reimbursements. At that time, there was $225 million that had not yet been dispersed, and those disbursements will occur in reimbursement form through the end of December. This is when we expect. So whatever money is left at the end of December will just kind of go away. So they're asking us to submit for reimbursement for appropriate expenditures before December 31st. So Robert's got a request prepared, in fact, to get over to them tomorrow. On that note, they did set aside, I think, $10 million for local governments to upgrade their systems in terms of making sure that public access was enhanced to electronic documents. And so our administration will be exploring what needs to be done to get more of the town's documentation that's often requested through public record anyway, onto our website. And so things like the original copy of our ordinances, cleaning up the resolutions pages on our website, and also in terms of being able to get building permits and those other form type things that we currently don't offer very intuitive online services for. You'll see us attempt to upgrade a lot of that through CARES. And like I said, the folks at the state have set aside that funding, the 10 million, just for that purpose. And so while they obviously don't do pre-approvals, they've essentially guaranteed us that anything related to that project will be reimbursed. And they've done very well in terms of facility modifications and some other things. We run up the flagpole to give us some level of confidence that when we apply for the funding or reimbursement, that it is reimbursed. So we are comfortable with the reimbursements that we have presented, and we'll continue to update the council as those that funding comes back, and then we know what was reimbursed, and we'll provide you the spreadsheet that Robert gave you before. Other thoughts here? I think that pretty well highlights what I wanted the council to be aware of. I appreciate the council's cooperation and willingness to unify on in-person meetings. I am very pleased with how tonight has come together. It sounds like there are some issues we still need to work out kinks on in blending virtual meetings with our in-person meetings, but I'll be honest, I was a bit nervous coming in tonight, not knowing how this would all play out, and I'm pleased. I appreciate the council's willingness again to come together, set of ground rules that everyone's aware of what the expectations are, and that we can continue the business on behalf of the public. So with that, you have my thanks and my gratitude. Unless there's any questions for me directly, I will turn it over to comments. Mr. Vick.
I just wanted to say, I'm glad that we're back to in-person meetings so we can all see each other's lovely masked faces. But also too, last week during the planning and zoning board meeting, I myself was trying to call in on Zoom and got nothing but a busy signal out of it using the correct number. I was not able to log in to be able to set up the public comment at all. And that is something that we need to be able to, that we do need to address, definitely need to fix. And I did go back and listen to some of our older meetings and whatnot. And the way our current setup is with the only microphone recording for the video being right there on that camera, it is almost impossible to hear what we're talking, anything we're saying. So we do need to try to figure out a way. We have got to get this addressed. Or if we take the amplifier and find a way to plug it directly into the camera where the audio feed is going directly in, that's going to be best direction for us so that people can be at home and participate.
Mr. Michelson.
I would just like to say that I got a board application here from Mr. Steve Gibson. And I would like to know if maybe you could put a speed on that, Brandon, if you would, and maybe get him on, get him confirmed in the next meeting so he could sit in on the planning and zoning in October.
I would just like to know if there's a way to publicly post maybe on our website, the CARES money, where it's going, how much we have applied for, kind of a running tally and what that goes for. I don't know about you guys, but I get quite a bit of questions about it. And to be quite honest, that's not my area of expertise. I don't know how to answer those questions, and talking to you about it, it makes sense, but then I need to go and relay that to somebody, and that's there gets to just be kind of a clog in the wheel, right? So if there's a way that we can keep a running post of that to just keep everybody updated with, I don't know if it looks like some question and answers or, just that spreadsheet, I don't know. But if we can do something, that'd be helpful.
I might be able to answer that real quick to help that out. One is it's reimbursement. So like for we'll use the police wages, okay, we get that money back, I will go back and JV it out of the system, so the police wages then go down.
Mhm.
And so it helps the budget, but we just can't take that money and say, oh, now we got 30,000, go spend it on something else.
Sure.
It's just, I guess, in a sense we could, but. it's-
Right, but then where does it go, right? I mean, there's a bunch of questions that I am not, and I don't know anybody sitting up here, I don't know, I'm not gonna speak for them, but I'm not comfortable answering this question.
And I don't know if we've, but right now in the budget, we have, for this year's budget, we got about $80-some thousand budgeted that we have to get back from here to make the budget now. So it's gonna go there, so it's already really budgeted for.
We did anticipate we have some revenue, but I think we can put together, frankly, even the state doesn't really know how to publicly tell us how to give this information out. And so we'll try to bring it into a comprehensible format, whether it's just a basic PowerPoint slide and show folks how that works.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, any further council comments? Board reports. The board that met was planning and zoning. Mr. Michelson, go ahead.
Yes, last Thursday we had a board report, and what we did is, we didn't make no decision. We did decide to, set up a public meeting on October 7th at 6:30 PM at the high school. I got a call this morning from Dr. Moore. I went up there and, I got a letter here. Dear Mr. Michelson, we have received the facility use request agreement for the proposed planning board meeting, which is scheduled for October 7th, 2020. With use of the multi-purpose room, there will be a facility use rental cost of $250, which would be due 7 days in advance, according to the agreement. Please see the breakdown below. Class 3 use, 0 to 4 hours, $75. Equipment rental, $25. AV tech assistant, $75. Custodial, 3 hours for $75. And Dr. Moore, we went and looked at it. It's where the lunchroom is. And he said we could easily sit 75 people, and that's with socially distant. So I think that would work good. They will set everything up for us, wipe everything down before. They will have the Zoom, stream live, all that for us, and then we're done. We go, they put everything away. Of course, they charge us, but hopefully this will come out of the CARES Act too. Robert. That's all. Thank you.
Any board reports? Robert updated us on what happenings. So. All right, very good. With that, I appreciate everyone's cooperation tonight. Please remember to wear a mask on the way out the door. We sanitize once everybody leaves.